This is exactly how I took my Instagram from 40,000 views a month to 350,000 views a month in 90 days. So if you want to see how I 7x my Instagram views in 90 days, then stay till the end. Okay, first thing is probably what you hear from basically every creator that's had success online, and that's just consistency. Throughout those 3 months, I averaged 20 to 30 posts a month. And although that's not some crazy scale or volume, it was enough for me to figure out what works, double down on it, and continue to grow. Regardless of your goals or your content, whether it's growth, whether it's retention, conversion, you still need to test and figure out what works. The fastest way to get there is to do the most volume that you can in a short period of time. It's really just the idea of taking as many shots as you can and to see what works. And this is the part that a lot of entrepreneurs hate about content. As a business owner, if you're willing to endure the pain, content will continue to pay you for the rest of your life. And that's why I decided this past year, or actually towards middle end of 2025, that it was important for me, if I want to do this long-term and build a long-term brand, to continue to invest into my content and actually get better at it. So the first thing, like I said, you need is consistency. And a lot of that comes down to the systems that you have. In order to take as many shots as possible, you need to be able to output as much content as you can in a week while still running your business, making money, and doing the things that pay you now. And so for me, I broke this down into 5 steps. Well, first being competitor research. Now I'm at a point where I can do competitor research throughout the day at any time if I scroll, or at any time throughout the week. I don't really set a specific time in my week anymore. But when you're starting out, you have to find competitors that are similar to the content that you want to make. And so this does take more focused effort. This is like a 1 hour, 2 hour block of literally scrolling through content of people that you like, creators that you like, creators that you want to emulate, and then literally looking for their top videos and analyzing them. So yeah, this is, I would say, more of the laborious part of making content, and that's the start. Like anything, the start is always the hardest part. And so what you need to do in this point, and what I did, is put it into a spreadsheet. Put your top 5 competitors into a spreadsheet, take their top 10 reels that you like, not only the ones that perform well, but that you want to replicate. And then taking inspiration from them, like look at their hooks, look at how they film their content, what angle is it at? What kind of mics are they using? Like all these types of things, and replicate it for yourself using what you have. What's really important at first is not to go out and buy a bunch of crazy new gear. It's actually to use what you have, whether it's literally just your phone and maybe a $20 lavalier mic from Amazon, and just use what you have and make as much as you can. Because what's really important is actually figuring out what forms of content work for you. Once you're able to actually see what's working, then you can look into how to make it better. In this, and honestly in anything, I follow the Hormozi framework: more, better, new. So before I do anything new, I make sure, can I do more of it, or can I make it better? That's really what I focus on. I rarely try to do new things in my business, and I treat content the exact same way I treat any other area of my business. Sales, client success, finance, I treat them all the same. I have systems that make sure that I can get to my goals at the end of the year, regardless of how I feel and things like that. So basically, number 1 is competitor research, and I just told you exactly how to do it. Throw it all in a spreadsheet, analyze what's working, and then see what you want to replicate. 2 is scripting. I do this very naturally. I honestly, something I've been doing recently is I journal a lot. So I will take a journal entry that has really worked for me, and I will script it out into a reel. And so there's basically a solid framework that you would want to go into. And it's just the general hero's journey that you see in most movies, stories, etc. And that's just like starting with pain and struggle. Then you want to have some kind of climax and then a payoff. I would say for storytelling, the most important thing is actually your payoff. And that's where you really want to tie it back to your mission. What's so important when you're doing this competitor research is you're looking for brands that emulate the similar mission to what you have. It's not just about what kind of content that they make. It's also about what are they doing and why are they doing it. And that's when you're scripting, it becomes more important, because you're going to start with pain. So as an example, I have a reel about the first experience I ever had as a music producer, and it was a horrible experience. And so I started with that. But then you go through the hero's journey. Well, it's like, well, I withstood that. I didn't take it as a sign to tell me to not do it. I took it as, okay, this is a test. And I continued to work as a producer. Now I've produced over 40, 50 artists, however many. And I do it full time and I'm 22. So like, that's my hero's journey. And then my payoff is why I make music at the end of the day. And for me, my why is to empower listeners, artists, etc., creatives to own their story and build the life that they want. And so for me, I tie everything back to that. That's my mission. That's my why. And I continue to do that in every single story I make. And so that's what's really important with your storytelling or any type of scripting reels is you always want to tie it back to why you do what you do. That's what makes your brand cohesive, right? If you had a bunch of random stories, but they don't actually make any sense, like, yeah, you have a personal brand, but what's your mission? Why are you making content? Why do you want why should people listen to you? Those are really important things that I think a lot of people miss is not only authority, but what are you here for? Like, what's your mission? That is so important. Your why is the number one thing you need before you start making content. And yeah, it'll change with time, but you need to have something solid to start off with. And so the next thing is filming. I, like many other creators and entrepreneurs that you hear of, I batch, right? So for example, I usually YouTube videos, I film once a week in one sitting because it's a fair bit amount of talking, but I also will do Instagram reels in batches. So I'll do my performance reels, anything, I do it based on set. So for example, if I'm sitting in this chair and I'm doing a performance reel, I will film all my performance reels for like 2 weeks. And that's usually, 8 reels. I won't edit them all at once, but I'll film them all. And then if I'm sitting at my desk, I'll film everything there. If I'm, at a different set, I'm off-site, I'm at location, then I will film everything there that I need to. So I batch that way, and I usually do it once or to twice a week. Usually one day for Instagram Reels, one day for YouTube. And that's how I roll. So batching is like obviously super common, but I would say, and I saw this reel this morning, it was kind of breaking down the difference between batching once a week, every other week, and once a month. And honestly, once a day is ideal, especially when you're starting to just get comfortable on camera. For me, I noticed that helps a lot. I usually film, like I said, twice a week. But if you film once a week, that's still a really good cadence to still be up to date with what's going on in your industry, but also be comfortable in front of the camera. If you're filming once every other week, once a month, you start to get really rigid with your content and it doesn't feel as natural anymore because you're not filming constantly, you're filming once a month. I think if you get to a point where you film for 7 years, yeah, every other week, once a month is cool. If you're confident and comfortable on camera. If you're not and you're just starting out, which is kind of what I'm making this content for, I would recommend once a week or more. That way, like I said, it's the same with getting started with content. You're getting started being on camera, feel comfortable on camera. And I've even noticed for myself in the past 3-4 months, how much more comfortable I am talking to the camera and, confident I feel. I feel like I can basically just be myself when I'm on camera versus, when I started, I used to feel like, I had to be this authority. I had to do X, Y, Z and feel comfortable. I had to wear my hat. I had to do these certain things. Now I don't feel like that at all. So that's just, reps, right? Just like anything, you need the volume, you need the reps to get better at it. So the faster you can make that happen, the better you'll get at content. Last thing is editing and scheduling. And those I do same thing, batch. I edit the same type of reel at the same time. So if I have performance reels, I'll edit them all at once. Usually stuff with the same font, the same like content editing system, whether that's storytelling reels, YouTube videos, like I will do them all the same type of reel or the same type of video at the exact same time. And then on a Sunday, I'll schedule out for my week. And that way it's out. I don't have to think about it posting, but I do go in and respond to comments and do things like that to keep the engagement up while things are actively happening in real time. So that's usually what I do. And that's how I've been able to stay consistent. And at this point, I've been making content for 2 years and a year and a half, 2 years. And I have improved so much by actually focusing on getting better. At first, I just made content to make content, to have a brand, to put my face out there. But now and honestly to convert better. But now I make content because I love making content and I also want to inspire people and empower them. So my mission has changed a lot, and that's, I think, very obvious when you watch my old content compared to now. It just feels much more genuine. The next two things are honestly probably the more boring part for a lot of creators, and something a lot of creators overlook, which is probably why they're not growing. And that's just being analytical and tracking your data. I track my metrics religiously. And whether that's, follows, shares, saves, comments, views, reach, I track it all. And then I track the rates in between each thing. And, I have spreadsheets that automatically do this for me. So I'm not really pressed about having to do math or whatever. For me, I do it once a month, 10 days after the algorithm settles. And I will go in and manually input all of the data for the 30 reels. It probably takes like 30 minutes, honestly. And, then I will go through and analyze it. It probably takes another 30 minutes, see what worked, what didn't work, what can I eliminate first, second, what can I improve on for next month? And then 3, if I want to experiment with something, I might look at some competitor research, new things that I can do to continue to grow and experiment with new types of content in the next month. But really for experimentation, I only do 10 to 20% of my content. Maybe 15 is kind of the sweet spot, 15%. And I'll do like 4, for example, in February, I'm doing 4 carousels. Basically, depending on your goals, like if you're cracking top of funnel, you're going to want to be looking at follows per post. That's like a main metric that you want. For me, I'm looking at retention. So I'm looking at more like comments, saves. Those are things that I'm trying to increase. Last thing, like I said here, is iterating and improving. So this is now you've posted, let's say minimum once a day. Second, you've tracked all the data. Now, how do we improve based on your specific goals for the next month or the next set of content? It's all the same system. You just continue to repeat until you look at what's working and what you like. You test it out for yourself, going through the framework that I mentioned. Then you track the data 10 days after you post. And then you repeat the process. And that's really how you continue to grow your account, experiment with new content, and actually enjoy it. If you stayed to the end, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was valuable for you. If it was, please share it with someone who would also resonate with.